A tiny fire lit up in the Lowood forest near the small village of Berun. Some may think it's a will-o'-the-wisp, slowly burning, guiding the living into the forest straight to death, and some may think it's a natural phenomenon due to the magic properties of the swamps. This time, though, it was neither a monster nor of natural origin. It was a boy, who wasn't even 14 years of age, unintentionally committing arson in a dry forest. The fireball grew in the boy's hands to the size of a plate, sizzling and distorting the air around it, until the boy discharged a spell into his surroundings. His bright red hair flew around as the fireball hit the nearest tree trunk with a loud bang, a confident, arrogant smile clearly visible on the boy's face. The tree trunk burned faster and faster, got consumed by the flames, and quickly turned to ash and charcoal. Though the fire didn't stop there, and the boy, who slowly realized this very fact, lost his smile. Hold up, why isn't it stopping?" he asked, his voice quivering. He thought the fire would stop as soon as it finished feasting on the targeted wood, yet he forgot that a forest doesn't contain only one tree. Slowly the boy retreated backwards, eyes focused solely on the fire he created. His senses screamed at him to run, but his focus was on a sea of red and yellow spreading around him. Backing off even more, the boy toppled over a root sticking out of the ground, leading to him landing straight in the muddy marshlands. The young fire mage crawled backwards, away from the enclosing fire, until he heard loud voices calling for water mages. Tears started to pool in his eyes. The boy seriously thought he was about to die by his very own magic. The people drew closer. Some were already screaming for the water mages to step to the front and put out the fire. He then realized he'd be in big trouble if the villagers found him near the source of fire. Finding a young fire mage near a burning forest is incriminating in itself. More afraid of the others than of the fire, he jumped up and ran away, deeper into the Lowood forest. As he heard the fire sizzle from afar, as water hit the heated-up swamp, the boy turned around. Someone once told him that fires in marshlands can burn for years, though he didn't believe that at first. But now, after seeing the trouble the water mages went through to put out the fire, the boy was quite convinced he hadn't been lied to. Just as he wanted to turn around, he heard someone clear their throat, making his head zip around so fast that he only saw black dots for a few seconds. When he regained his vision, the boy realized that the person in front of him was none other than his older brother, who gave him a stern look. The disapproval was clearly visible on the older brother's face, as he opened his mouth to lecture his younger brother. "Before you lecture me, remember that you're less than 5 minutes older than me," the younger brother said, pursuing his lips. "So stop acting like I'm a fucking disappointment to you, when I'm only a disappointment to our parents. Also, why are you even here?" The younger brother stared right at the older brother in defiance. Indeed, he was at fault, and he was well aware of that, yet all the others always tried to lecture him over these matters, as if he was too stupid to realize his own shortcomings. "Aiden, I don't care how many minutes you're younger than me. You were born after me, therefore you are my younger brother and I have the duties of your older brother. By the way, I just tagged along because I assumed you'd get in trouble," the older one of the two said, letting out a sigh as he massaged the bridges of his nose. "And considering how you constantly create trouble, I have to collect you and bring you back home." "You nearly burned the forest down, for goodness sake. What would have happened if the mages weren't fast enough to extinguish your flames? Heck, what if they weren't even in the vicinity? Ever thought about that? Aiden, you can't be that irresponsible." The older one's voice grew louder and louder as Aiden dug deeper and deeper down to avoid his brother's eyes. His shoulders trembled as he bit on his lip. He stared towards the ground, past his muddy linen pants, and furrowed his eyebrows as he snuck glances towards his brother. "You do realize I just did this to become stronger, do you? I didn't mean to burn more than that stupid trunk. I just wanted to get stronger so I'm a match for you, Alec. Don't you know how cool you look with your aches training in the fields with Dad? And then there's fucking me, the troublemaker and good-for-nothing second son, the last child. I'm always gonna stand in your damn shadow because of less than 5 minutes. Look at me, I don't even look like you. You're so strong and muscular, and then there's me, the absolute opposite. Neither our skin nor hair color is the same. You even look human. What should I do? Chop my horns off?" Aiden's hands were clenched into fists as he said every word with bitter resentment, but whether it was towards his brother or himself, he didn't know. His head faced the ground as his red eyes burned with tears and without emotions. Rage, bitterness, and pain. Compared to Alec, whose green eyes slowly got softer, Aiden's only grew more narrow as his nose twitched. With the small horns on the top of his forehead, Aiden was comparable to a young bull, one with a huge inferiority complex. Alec slowly stepped forward and embraced the shaking figure of his brother, hot tears leaving spots on the older brother's grey wool shirt. Aiden's head rested on Alec's chest, and he was too proud to return the embrace, leaving his arms in the same position as before, hands and teeth clenched tightly. Now only the younger one's soft bit-back sobs and teeth-grinding were heard, framed by a silent background of screams asking for more water, which were accompanied by steps hurrying from and to different locations. Slowly Aiden unclenched his fists. By now, his fiery hair was in a mess, instead of in a neat ponytail how it usually was, though his hairband still held on for dear life. Slowly he stepped back and stared at his brother. They were born at the same time, from the same mother, yet they all looked so different. It bothered him, even though Alec was the other one out of the triplets. Aiden always aspired to be as important as his perfect brother, yet he never seemed enough. What made it even worse is that the very person he admired was the same one he wanted to hate so desperately. Alec was the better one, in an entire different league compared to him. Several minutes in silence passed by, until Aiden took a deep breath and let the emotions wash off like they were sand washed away by the tide. "Let's go home, Alec. I'm better now." Aiden lied softly as he took out the hairband that kept his hair up. He bit on it and tried to put his hair up again as he started to march back to Barrow Village. After a while of failing said task, he bound the band around his wrist instead and just kept his hair open, letting it flow past his shoulder blades down to the small of his back. As they walked towards the edge of the forest, his mind gradually filled with fear of what kind of horrors he'd face once he returned home. It was mainly fear of his mother, even though his father was quite literally a demon. The image of his mother being angry just felt way more unsettling in comparison to his usually calm father. Aiden shuddered and looked back up. After the occasional branch cracking silently under their feet, they apparently got closer to the edge. He was so focused on his thoughts that he didn't even notice that they nearly left the short path in the forest behind. The light shone more and more through the trees, until the forest was finally replaced by a lush green meadow and a small village in the distance. After walking a few minutes, they passed by small fields to the left, sheep and horses shortly after on the right, grazing peacefully. They also passed by the wooden gates surrounding Barrow. The boys walked past some villagers, who stayed back and didn't go into the forest. After checking out the glances Aiden received, he determined that word already made the rounds. The disapproving glances of the villagers were evidence enough. He clenched his fists again, furiously staring at the ground. Alec gave Aiden a pat on the back after he realized the latter's negative emotions. This made Aiden look up at his brother through teary eyes. He couldn't quite understand why, but whenever he felt angry, he immediately thought about everything that had happened, all the glances, hurtful words, and emotions he felt. All the disapproval and disappreciation directed to the boy just made him tear up every time he told himself he wouldn't cry. He bit down on his lip and stumped forward, his eyebrows furrowed yet again. "Mother said you'll get wrinkles if you keep furrowing your eyebrows like that. They say you're the most beautiful out of the three of us, but wouldn't wrinkles ruin that?" Alec questioned with a smile. It was his own attempt at cheering his brother up, but Aiden ignored it, huffed, and started to walk faster. It wasn't like he disliked getting compliments. He had reached a point where he was unable to recognize one entirely. In addition, Alec wasn't the best in giving proper compliments, even if the sentiment was there. No matter where Aidan walked, he felt like everyone was staring at him. His own personal walk of shame. It seemed to him like the wooden windows of the timber-framed houses were opening immediately when he was about to pass them by. Soon their house came into view. The shadow of the old oak tree fell on the house, and the grass in front of it swayed slightly in the breeze. It was a pretty scenery, calming, yet the only emotion the boy could feel was fear. The knot in Aidan's stomach got worse the nearer he got to this building. His heartbeat quickened and his breath got faster and rougher, even his eyes opened wider. Aidan slowed down his pace until he stood in front of the 2-story high structure, the door seemingly looming over him. Alec, who had been quiet until they arrived, slowly pushed his brother out of the way, laying his hand on the handle. "Maybe I should open the door and go in first. Perhaps they'll be more lenient with you if I can explain the situation to them beforehand," Alec suggested. Aidan looked to the side, then faced his brother to give him a nod, an affirmation. Alec walked in and closed the door behind him, while Aidan continued to stand outside, biting his lips. His brows were furrowed. He was clearly thinking about ways to get out of the mess he created. After a few minutes passed, without Aidan coming to a proper conclusion, he saw a huge man approach. Before he could get in trouble with this man, his father, he walked off towards the river near his village. Whenever he felt sad, he went towards his favorite spot, a rock formation directly beside the river. Lush grass accompanied him on his way towards it. Once he arrived, he pulled himself on the rocks, where he sat down in solitude and wailed in silence.